Hi there, my name is Nora Crone. I'm a violist in New York City, a co-founder of the Till Project for String Players, and a musician's focal dystonia recovery advocate. This video is part of a series on 5 physical habits to avoid for focal dystonia recovery and prevention. Today's topic is isolating. This information, by the way, is also 100% applicable to other injuries, and even if you're not injured, so please feel free to stick around and check it out for yourself. So if you don't already know the backstory on how I recovered from dystonia and the approach that I use to assist others, you might want to watch one of my previous videos. I'll leave some links down below, but the short version is that once I started working with violinist Sophie Till on learning an approach to the instrument that's based on concrete physical logic, my symptoms started to disappear. Now, I recognize that dystonia is a complex condition and that the precise mechanisms behind it aren't agreed upon. But what I can say is that developing that knowledge at an experiential level, coupled with repeating healthy movements, gradually changed my brain and nervous system. After 2 years of hard work, I was able to return to professional playing, and I am now 100% recovered. And my mission is to share the information that helped me with as many people as possible. These videos are a useful place to start, but do keep in mind that there are no substitutes for direct one-on-one work in this approach, which is really the best possible strategy for recovery. All right, so let's talk about isolating. If you watch the video on stretching, which I'll also link to down below, you probably have a sense already of how stretching and isolating go together. But we're going to look at a couple of concrete examples that came up in my recovery that should hopefully make it really clear. The first thing to know is that while string players are often taught to isolate parts of our bodies, in fact, the fingers, hand, and forearm operate best as a unit, with each part of that unit doing the job it was designed to do, no more and no less. So let's take the example of the left hand. If you tap spots on your face, go ahead and try it. Different spots, different fingers. You'll notice that you bring the entire finger, hand, and forearm unit to each new place. You can also tap rather lightly, let's say at the skin level, or a little more deeply if you want to feel the bones underneath. And the way that you do that is by sending a certain amount of power through the forearm, wrist, hand, and fingers into the surface that you're tapping. In contrast, it's quite unlikely that you planted all your fingers on your face in a frame and then lifted one at a time to tap. And yet, that's exactly how I used to play the viola prior to learning the Till approach. So what we've done here is we've isolated the fingers so that they don't each individually have the full support of the forearm aligned behind them, and we're just left with what they can accomplish by themselves. Now, some of them, like 1 and 2, don't feel so bad like this, but 3, for instance, has barely any lift and drop capacity in this state. And 4 has a decent range of motion, but is actually kind of weak, so you can feel how getting the string down is going to require an isolated press, which really doesn't feel very good. But the good news, as I found out, is that we don't have to do this. The body is perfectly capable of being in one place at a time and moving really quickly from place to place. That's how we walk and run, right? We're fully on one step at a time instead of leaving parts behind. Now, explaining how we do this on the instrument at speed with a combination of what's called walking hand and arm plus forearm rotation is way beyond the scope of this video. But if you can tap your face, you've already got an idea. Now let's move on to an example for the right arm, string crossings. So this is going to be a little imaginative, but I invite you to join me on this thought experiment. So imagine that you have some valuable family heirloom, or maybe a Grammy or an Oscar or something like that, and you're polishing it with a toothbrush. And you do this side, and you do this side, and so on. And notice how your arm is moving. Your forearm is rotating, right? The entire finger, hand, forearm unit is rotating as a team, and the upper arm is also rotating in its shoulder socket to position the arm appropriately in space. If I wanted to shine the top of the head of my Oscar, for instance, I could rotate back and forth over both sides of that surface. Okay, now try to only use your wrist to get from one side to the other. Very, very odd, right? It doesn't even really keep me in proper contact with the thing that I'm polishing. Okay, now with the elbow, even more extreme. And now the shoulder, ooh, that's gonna get tiring quickly. So these are all different forms of isolation. And when it comes to string crossings, the only solution, just as on our family heirloom, is for the forearm to rotate, bringing the hand and fingers with it, and for the upper arm to follow along in proportion so that the entire thing can continue to function as an aligned unit. So those are just two common examples of isolation, but in truth there are innumerable ways that the body can isolate, and none of them are good. In fact, especially in the case of dystonia, it can go even beyond distinct parts of the body operating in isolation from the whole. The parts themselves can break down into individual areas, with some attempting to separate themselves and function independently or belong to the instrument rather than to us. But however confused we've become, there is always a way back, and understanding how healthy movement works in the context of the instrument and music is key. If you're ready to get started, I encourage you to consider one-on-one work with someone knowledgeable in this kind of approach. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want more videos specifically on dystonia recovery, you can subscribe to my channel. And if you want to know more about the TIL approach in general, you can also subscribe to the TIL project. I'll leave links to both below. And of course, please feel free to share this video with anyone who you think might find it useful. If you want to know more about me, please visit my website, www.noracrone.com. Take care. See you next time.